I'm really happy to be with you today because we receive students from your master, and in the last 2 years we did it, and it was a really good experience for us. We like to create this European environment in our film archive. Unfortunately, because of pandemic this year, this is not possible, but we will go on to do it because that's one of the points we really care about, the training of European profile in our field. I really want to also thank the Universitat Complutense de Madrid and all staff for this invitation and give this space to the film archive for which I work. What I'm going to do is to describe a workflow of a film from its entrance in the film archive until the very end of the process. So what we call the enhancement of film heritage. And I'm going through a PowerPoint that I made for you with a lot of images that can give you an idea what does it mean daily work in a film archive. And I will also try to focus in a pedagogical point of view my presentation in order to give you some information about the profile we look to work today and for the future in a film archive, because that we are trying to build with master like yours. I like a lot the title of this Congress that is called The Promising Future of European Audiovisual Heritage, and I really liked it for two reasons. One reason that this kind of master or this kind of conference give me really the impression that we are trying to build things together, and there are a lot of cinematek and association and university working together to build a common platform of exchange. And in the other side, I like this title because of the profile of the Cinematek Royale de Belgique, for which I actually work. This film archive is based in Brussels, of course, but when it was created in 1938, it was still not Europe. So it was physically in Belgium, but the founder of our film archive, Jacques Ledoux, was aware that the film collection in Belgium, that is still a small country, was not big enough to create an international film archive. And that's what he wanted, because he was a man with a vision of life. So that's why I decided to start to collect film from all over of Europe. And that's why today, you will see the number later, our collection is so big, but it's also a collection that include a lot of film coming from other countries of Europe, because the idea of Ledoux was to collect all this European heritage even before an idea of Europe like we know today was born. This that you are seeing now, it's of course it's a kind of artistic picture. You see all these boxes that are used but were mostly used in the past to move the film from one archive to another one for projection. And I just show you here some picture of our film archive. These are pictures of 70 millimeter, which we have a really small collection, but we are really proud to have this collection. And then this is just some ideas of what does it mean to receive films. And this is one of our deposit where there are still the original boxes. And now I go through my presentation. So my idea for today, because I know we have 15 minutes, is to go through two main part of our job. So the acquisition, so what we do on our daily job to make the collection bigger, how to manage this collection, and what we do in order to make a diffusion of an exhibition of all this material and collection that we have. So we basically have several ways to do it. One way is, of course, the projection, and the other way is our work of distribution, creation of DVD, and project of online put at disposal of images. You have to imagine that when you work in a film archive, you deal with objects that are films that are heavy. So this is the number of our collection. Some of my slides are still in French because I use our annual report to do it, but they are still quite comprehensible. So we have 80,000 titles. That it's a really high number. It's important to know that film in analog support have a weight, are dirty, and it's to deal with this kind of collection require a lot of manual skills, and it's completely different than the skills that acquire with digital collection. So as I promised you on my previous short introduction, I will show you the workflow of a film from the beginning until the end. So this is an idea of our depot at the entrance. So this is an idea of the kind of boxes that we receive. The first things that we do when we receive this kind of materials is, of course, to try to see if these films has a problem or have disease, because we have to make an entrance of this film that come from outside in our collection. So first of all, we have to see if the film are a nitrate, an acetate, polyester. Polyester is the most recent film before the DCP that you know very well. Acetate is in between the really beginning of cinema that was made on nitrate, that is material that can go to fire, and between this nitrate and polyester, that is really plastic material, we have acetate material. Of course, in all the film, the big film archive today, most of the film are made on acetate. So what we do when film are coming, we taste what is called the acidity of the film. So if the film is has this disease that is called Vinegar Syndrome, and is one of the main problems of film archive, mostly in the south of the world, in the south of Europe, like in your country or in my country, where temperatures are really high. Another thing that we really have to first check is the rust. You can see here very well, because when we receive boxes like that, we are scared that there are some problem inside because the boxes have not been very well conserved. I just go quickly a little bit further. This is just to give you an idea of mold and dust that you can find in a box that outside is full of rust. This is a really far degree of deposition. I have to say that in Europe nowadays it's not so usual to find this kind of material in such a bad condition, because a lot of work has been done in Europe in the last 15 years. But of course, sometimes it can still happen. This is a really last degree of decomposition of a film that was sick of Vinegar Syndrome. And you see, it's one step further. Okay, this is not. So what I want to focus on is that when a collection come into your archive, first of all, you have to make a kind of inspection of the physical condition. And when you have boxes like this that are really not in super good condition, you have first to change the boxes and then to open the box to see if there is a major damage. One thing that is really in bad condition coming into your archive, you have to be careful as a film archivist to protect yourself. And I want to just quickly go through the first things we need nowadays in a film archive. We need, in one way, film archivists that study how to deal with analog collection. So people that are able to make a test and are able to protect themselves and the film from disease they can encounter. Of course, you can also find film, like in this case, in really good condition. There is just a tiny problem with the perforation, or film like this that are quite in good condition. It's just a little bit of dust, and it just needs to be put in better condition in a fresh box, but that's not so difficult to do. Or film like in this condition, when we already see that there are a lot of there is a principle of mold. And again, I want to come back on the fact that we need film archivists that are aware of the material that they are dealing with, and they are able to defend themselves from, like in this case, from the mold and the environment which they work with other colleagues, but they are also able to find a solution to try to save this film if this film is the only copy available in all Europe. So these are skills that you are going to study, I know, in your master, and that's what we need for the future. So people that are really able to work with this kind of material, and they have the ability to understand what is going on. Also because we don't have to forget that, as I said, in Europe, a lot of this big work has already been done, but there are other countries still, I think, in some part of Europe and also outside of Europe, that still have big amount of collection that just need to be cataloged and also analyzed. And in some cases, in some country, there is still this job to do. So go through the collection and see what we can still to save. And in this case, it's super important that the person that is in charge of this kind of work is really aware of what he's going to do. And as I always say to my students, never forget that you have to defend yourself against the movie, because the movie can be really dirty, and for instance the rust and the mold are really bad for a human being. And also the nitrate needed to be managed with a lot of attention. When your collection come into the film archive, you have to make a first work of analysis just to share polyester, acetate, nitrate, good condition, bad condition. And then you go through another work. So you have to see in more detail what this collection was about. So we use this kind of table that are viewing table, and we try to see more in detail what the film that come in is about when we have no idea, no clue. You will see there are some pictures with film archivists without gloves and others with gloves. So this is the old school and the new school, and I would love that the new school always take glasses. Take gloves. This is the second step of our work. So in the case the collection is unknown, so what I mean is that we are not receiving a collection from an important distributor that has given to us title that we know very well, but we are receiving like film from an old deposit of a small museum in the countryside. So we are receiving important material, we know, but we don't know what there is inside. So we have to analyze more in detail. In this picture, you see very well that there is something plastic that is covering the film, and it's because when film are under a certain condition, so they have a really bad Vinegar Syndrome, we have to put the film archivist in condition that it doesn't breathe this kind of vapor. So that's why we work under this kind of condition. And these are other picture of the other step. When we found material that are interesting, we have to go in more detail about the analysis of the film, like how are the perforation, there is any splice, how are the color, how is condition of the film in general terms. So let's say again, really in general terms, because that's what we're supposed to do today, that we have to go through the analysis of the film through all these steps and really take the time to study the collection that came into the archive to try to make some good project about this collection. And I would like now to underline that when collection come into the film archive, until this collection is not studied and is not in our database, we say in our field that it doesn't exist. And that's why, because if you don't know what you want, you cannot make a diffusion about this material. Sometimes if we found a nice night with really good images, we can of course watch the night rate, but normally we don't need this part of the job so much in that part of our work. But when we are dealing with acetate, and we may have several films that are come into the archive, it became crucial to see the films and to describe what there is into the films. And this is particularly important when we talk about non-fiction collection. So this is what is called moviola, another kind of viewing table. In this case, you will see only one image. In this case, this other one is really useful because allow you to compare several copies of the same title. To do this kind of work, we follow specific rules. In a way, as a film archive that is a historical member of FIAF, of course, we follow the international rule for conservation made by FIAF. And at the same time, we follow the ISO, International Organization for Standardization, that also supply us rules for the good conservation of our films. The good conservation go through specific temperature and humidity control, but also through specific places where you have to preserve your material. And what I'm showing you now is the ideal situation. So this kind of structure. But when you work in a film archive, sometimes you can be also faced to this kind of situation. This is not the ideal situation, but there are a lot of film archive with this kind of condition because they preserve a huge amount of films, and it's not always possible in all countries to have this kind of structure. But when you have at least good temperature, good condition in the sense that there is no light and you keep this space very clean, I think you already could be proud of your film archive. Just a small word about the digital material. If you are going to work in a television film archive, you will deal with a lot of 16 millimeters. Of course, regard the same kind of rules than 35 millimeter or other kind of analog film that you can encounter in your life as a film archivist. For video is a little bit different. Video today require a lot of work from us because we know that this is the last years. We have to transform all this tape into digital elements because we sure that there will be no more reader for a mini DV or digibeta produced in the next 10 years. And we know that there are important archives that were made on video, on tapes, and we have to preserve also this material. So that's why all the archives nowadays have a project of transfer of video, because we have to say this material, we save this material, of course, when it's the original source. And we have to be quickly because the main problem in this kind of situation is that we don't know for how long we can still read all these kinds of tapes. Just to give you an example, there are some really old Sony tapes that are readable only in one lab in England. So that does give you an idea of the problem. Another important part of your job of a future film archivist is the management database. Because if you don't have a database that works well and that is filling with all information, you don't know what is your heritage. We are actually now working in a new database. And this database has one big advantage for us is this concept of interoperability. That means that this database is connected with other websites. Like I'm filling in information and I have to fill in film from Martin Scorsese. I don't have to describe who is the director because I can make what is called link data to Wikipedia in order to say, okay, if you want to know who is Martin Scorsese, you just go back to Wikipedia. Database are always been really important in our work, of course, but I think today with the connection between database and the online platform, it's super important that this database are more and more connected with the outside of the film archive, and also that have the opportunity to be updated quickly, because the need of the film archive change really quickly. So now I'm going to the second point. So if you work today in a film archive, you cannot avoid to work on digital and on digital collection. So you cannot say, oh, I just want to work on film, that's my choice. Yeah, of course you can only work on film, but that will be a little bit difficult. We need people that, as I said before, are able to manage films and that are able to deal with problems connected to film materials, but that also are open to digital for two reasons. One reason is that you need to work like on a database, not just to fill in data, but to do more operation in a database. And then because the new collection that you will receive in your film archive will not be only analog collection, but also digital collection. Normally in film collection, sorry, in film archive, we have to make 3 safeguards of all digital elements. And some film archive, they save on 2 LTO and in 1 server. Some others, they use 2 server and 1 LTO. So this is depend from your film archive. We actually work on 1 LTO, 1 server, and 1 platform where we have a server that is shared in Belgium. So this is also an option that a lot of countries like to have. So sharing place to make this safeguard of data. But this is not so easy to do right now because there are problem of protection and is still not well done. What is important is to know that the archivist of the future has a double identity. So you need a manual skill, but you also need some IT skills. And I would like to quote David Walsh, that is one of the chief of the technical commission of IA for a really long time. And in one of this presentation, he was telling us today when you look for a film, the film is on a shelf, so you know where you have to go to pick up your film. The problem is that when you look for a film that is on a digital support, this film is probably in a server on an LTO. So the film archivist is not able by himself to go to search for this film. We need an IT guy in between. So what we need for the future is that this IT guy is part of the film archivist. One more thing about the digital collection. It's important to keep in mind that the future of a film archive is not only digital, this is for sure, but digital, it will be part of your life. So you have really, as young archivists, to start to think about the two things. And also just to think about that a huge amount of work in a film archive in the future really comes from the digital side, because you know the digital elements need constant migration, so from one LTO to another one, and this require first of all a big amount of storage capacity, and also a part of your budget will be dedicated to that. So this is the only way we can be sure that we go on our mission of long-term preservation of films. So you have to be open to this kind of idea. You cannot only work on analog collection. You have to work on both collection all the time at the same time. Now I go quickly through the difference between a digitalization and a restoration. In a film archive, you can have, of course, interesting and important restoration project, but you will also do some digitalization, because you need, for instance, to create a clip for a new film, for a new production, because you receive requests from university, from students, from researcher, from a television, and of course you need digital material, because you will go through some project for which again there is a need of images, but you are not going to put anymore the film on film element at disposal. In most of the projects you are going to do today that are not in connection with a projection project, you will always use digital material. So not all the time you will go through a project of restoration that is really expensive and they require a lot of time. It's made with the purpose of make a projection in a movie theater. You will go through all this project of what we call an easy digitization that has one big goal, and is to preserve original material on film to have a lot of access, and also make this film available for more people. So makes our mission of make our collection a disposal much easier. We use two different platforms to reach this goal. One is Vimeo and the other one is YouTube. YouTube is considered by us a more general channel in which would film that have no right problem, that are in public domain, and also more about our activity. And then we have Vimeo channel in which we put the film for which we manage the right, and so we give password and access for a limited amount of time. Or on Vimeo, we make project that we consider more sophisticated RSA project. One of the projects that give you an idea how important it is today for a film archivist to have this double identity, analog and digital, is, for instance, the EFG project, that is a European project about the First World War. This project was made because the idea was to supply all films about the First World War coming from all European film archives that are part of the project, of course, available online. So the idea was to have a platform where you're sure that you can find all the film about this subject. This project has an amazing project that proved that we can do a European project all together and very well. And this project also is the proof that nowadays it's so easy to say to students, oh, go to EFG and you will find this, and this document. And of course, it's so much easier than take a plane or take a train and come to Brussels to see the film on the viewing table. At the same time, this project show us that the most you have film online, the most people make collateral research. And this, of course, it's a value for a film archive. I would like now to go at the end of my presentation and explain you in more detail the last step of this workflow of a film that is coming in a film archive. So what is called the mechanism. We can do this through, as I told you, restoration projects. In restoration, you can connect some distribution projects. You can put film online, and of course, you can projection of your collection. We work a lot in Brussels with the restoration project. We restore, as you probably know, a lot of film of Chantal Ackerman, but also other Belgian films like Título de Jaco van der Maal, or anyway, The Wind Blows the Bombardment. We are going into this kind of work of restoration of Belgian heritage because this is our mission, and at the same time we're trying to distribute this film abroad, at least for a certain time, and promote this Belgian heritage abroad. So this is part of the work that you are going to do in the future. Make this film available through restoration project and in and through the support of the future. So this is the digital and the DCP. At the same time, just a small word about the video on demand. That is something that we really didn't want to work on because we are a film archive. Everyone that film has been viewed in a movie theater, but we were not doing before. Now during the pandemic, we really agree that this is really an important part of our job just to make the film know through a channel that is available for a lot of people. And then if the person will be touched by a certain film, maybe he will go later to see the movie in a movie theater. But during the pandemic, we really rethink as a film archive about the platform and video on demand, because we are aware that there is a gap between us and our audience, and we have to try to find solutions to be still in contact with the audience. One of the other projects that we do as a film archive is to restore film of countries that have less possibility than Europe. So we basically restore several films from Nasser Kemir, that is a director that comes from Tunisia, and from Gaston Cabaret for Burkina Faso. This film from Gaston Cabaret were restored with the support of Scorsese Foundation. And we also restore several films of Amos Guitai, also giving support to countries that have less possibility than Europe. So in a way, when you will do this work of exhibition and this choice of restoration, you will have to think in a way to your country and of course to the heritage of your country, but also to look a little bit farther outside of Europe and outside of your country. And when we talk about European project, I just want to give you some example. Like we made a really nice project with the film archive in Warsaw in Poland, because we preserve nitrate that in their country were disappear. So this is a really good example of European heritage saved between two European archives. And also the other film, the other big project for which we work a lot was the restoration of the German film Golem, that was restored by the Murnau Stiftung, starting from our negative that was the unique copy survived, and then was presented alla Mostra di Venezia in Italy. So always think about to make this connection and try to work together with other country. And so maybe one more skill you will need is to speak several languages. And just one example of this work of enhancement of collection, we make some activity. So this one was about Raoul Servet, that is a famous Belgian director that made a lot of animation movies, really interesting, that also receive awards. And this is a really interesting project that was made starting from material that was completely forgotten. So this material were not even in well described until when Grace Winter, that she's an old producer, that she's passionate by this kind of cinema, discovered that we keep films made by this Marquis de Wavrin when he was young in Latino America. And starting from this project, we made an amazing project of really enhancement, and I'm really proud to talk about you about this project today, because this is really one of your mission for the future. So go through this collection that are not well known, that have been well preserved in a film archive, not really well studied, and there will be always a small collection that can be studied and from which you can important project. And finally, one word about voila, to show the film in your movie theater. Of course, you should have the chance to have your movie theater in your film archive. That's a chance that we have. And the idea is to show as much as possible your collection. Like we, from our programming, in 1 year of programming, we use for the 80% our films. This is really important. What is important as a film archivist is when you receive important collection to inform your colleagues that work for programming department and to push them to show and to create some special part of the program dedicated to the archives. That's what we have, and in which we show really some curiosity, some film that they cannot really go through a program or a perspective about one film director, but they can really go in this chapter called the curiosity from a film archive. And never forget that all this work that you can make about movies always go what is called non-film collection. So the pictures, posters, the archives, the documents, because I just give you this as an example. In the foyer of our movie theater, we always make a small exhibition about the programming that will be shown for the month to come. So never forget that film, it's really important that the film goes with the rest.
I have a question about the, well, you were mentioned the different platforms that you are using to communicate, to facilitate access to audiovisual works. And you were, I mean, if I understood well, you were talking about Vimeo and also YouTube or some other platform called Movie or something like that. The one, I don't know if it's just only for Tondal Ackerman, but I would like to know your opinion about how we can take advantage of these new streaming platforms for, I mean, making possible to know the European audiovisual heritage. I don't know if you think that there are some technical or economic issues, but also maybe legal because of the copyright. I would like to know your view of that.
There is for sure one main point is if the film are in public domain or not. That is the main point. So when the film are in public domain, you can easily put them in a platform. The problem is when they are not public domain, and so it's more complicated. What we think here in Brussels is that it's really important. Like on YouTube, we have a lot of films, and sometimes when we have students or researchers that ask us for new film, we directly put on YouTube if the film are on public domain, because in this way we respond to a specific request, and at the same time we make our collection online bigger, because we know that like someone can go on our YouTube channel, see a movie, and starting from that we receive a request like, do you have other film about this subject? So this is a way to be in contact with the audience, and at the same time, all the time that we can, we put directly on YouTube the film that people request. So we create more also value for the general audience. Concerning, so Vimeo, we like a lot Vimeo, but we use really for professional most of the time. Like if you really want to see a movie that, for which we own the right, because you don't know if you want to show in your festival, we put on Vimeo for a little while with a password, and it's not for free. This is for professional. For the students, we always try to find other solution.
There is any experience of cinema, movie makers that really provide their rights to a filmothèque or to a festival in order to avoid waiting to the end of the public domain.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a more that so if the film is not in public domain, sometimes you manage the right when you have an entire collection. Like, I don't know, that's what happened with us with Chantal Ackerman. But in other cases, we have the film, but we are in contact with the right owner. So my colleagues that works with the clip licensing, for instance, they are in contact with the right owner. So we know for a lot of films with who we have to be in contact. So anyway, it's quite, it's not super easy, but it's easy enough. Because we say, okay, you want to see this, this, and this, you have to contact this person, ask for the authorization, and then we can supply the films. And I also want to say that in Europe, everything about the right is really strict. There are countries in which it's a little bit easier, but not in Europe for sure.
I have a question for the audience, but if you come here, because we have, pero hay veintitantas personas conectadas, y así te presentas.
Hi, hello, Arianna. My name is Miriam. I'm a student of Audiovisual Heritage here in UCM. So I think I understand some parts of your presentation, and I have a question about on the digital collections of archives, which you could define as the main problem or for their conservation. Se me traba la lengua. The digital, about the digitalization.
Don't worry if you did not understood everything, because it was a lot of information. So I think the main problem with the digital preservation is the constant migration. So the fact that when we talk about constant migration, we mean that, for instance, if film is saved on LTO6, you have to imagine that all these tapes, every 6 months or every year, there is a new tapes. So your LTO6, it can be read for a little bit by the old LTO reader, but at certain point it's just stop. And so now, like with the LTO1, is no more possible to read it nowadays with the new reader. So you think that this technology goes really fast, and so the only way you can still going on to read the materials is what is called this perpetual migration. So there is a part of your archive that is completely dedicated to that. So these data are constantly migrated from one LTO to another one. This is one of the things that I think maybe we don't think really about. It's a huge amount of money for a film archive. It's a huge amount of space for the stockage. And if you think about the film, if you have good temperature, good humidity, you put on a shelf, and let me say this, you forget. With digital material, you cannot forget. Or if you do it, you lost the new Tarantino. Voilà. So this is a little bit the idea.
You mentioned also, Arianna, that what are the kind of donations that what you receive. I mean, the kind of material, I mean, that come from institutional, from just people, families, or I mean, I guess the audiovisual productions, they have their own collection, but I don't know if you get this kind of copies of all the movies that are realized in Belgium.
Yeah, so the main collection in the past, they were from the distributor. So when you were a distributor, after you you hand the I don't know in English. So when you stop to project the movie, they were giving the movie to the Cinematek, and at the same time. This is the big part of the collection with the exchange with the other FIAF Cinematek, because this is also really important part, because in the past they were making a lot of exchange, and that's why, for instance, we have all of these Russian films in our place, because we were sending them French and European film in exchange of Russian film, because it was really difficult at that time in the 70s to make a Russian film available in Europe. And at the same time, you receive a collection from other institutions. This is still possible. And then, of course, there are the private person that can give you films. But in this case, this is not so much, because we don't take any family film of 8 millimeters, because this is not our domain of work. So we don't take normally, and so it's really mostly from institution. And there is one interesting thing. One interesting thing. During the pandemic, we had the impression that a lot of people were cleaning the house, and they were calling us, and they want to give to us movies that they found somewhere in the house. So that was really funny situation. But most of the time we don't take family film, because we think that family film requires specific knowledge to catalog, and also specific scanner to scan them. So we only take if it's really about something important for the Belgian heritage, like I don't know, if when she was a child, then we take, but otherwise we don't. And I think it's also important to keep this distinction, because there are family film in Europe quite a lot, and it's something that arises a lot in the last 10 years, and they have really specific skills in terms of materials, and also in terms really of catalog, and in the way they make value out of this kind of collection. And one other important part, one big part of our collection come from lab that closed at a certain point of their history. So a lot of negative, intermediate, all this kind of material come from labs that closed in the last years.
So I have this question. What do you recommend us to start working in this field, or how we can start to work in this field?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's, and I know that it's not easy, because there are not too many places, but there is one good thing, that when the archives open, it was in the 30 and 40, and then there was this first generation of people that were really just working without the knowledge that you have today. And nowadays I see in the Europe I know, so in France, in Italy, in Belgium, there is a generation that is going to be retired. So you are there at a good time. No, I'm not joking. It's true.
Okay.
And no, it's really true. There are a lot of really important people that work in our field, and they did a lot for the community, and now they are going to be retired. And I think right now it's time of changement, and it's important. And what I really think that is important is that you are open to the both sides, digital and analog. You have to be a little bit. I wrote this in English because I like this section. On archaeologists, no? You have to work with this old material that is so fragile, but you need, and I insist you need, because David Walsh is right, to find your film on your LTO. Because otherwise it's get too complicated. Like my generation is the generation of between these kind of things. And I made in 2004 a thesis about digital restoration, and it was something we were saying, so many doubts about digital restoration. And today every restoration is digital. So you come later, so you can really do a lot of things because you have other skills. You are more digital than us, but you have to.
We have a lack maybe of skills, of manual skills, because we are not used to working more in this.
I know, but what I can say is that when we receive a student that has a lot of theoretical knowledge, it's super important, because it doesn't matter if you are not able to deal with the thing that is full of mold. What is important for me is that you tell me, oh, this is dangerous for me, for my colleagues, and for the film. Let's see what we have to do, and we are there to teach. But what I'm really I stress a lot is that there are these masters in Europe, and you learn a lot of things. And this is the profile we want. We need people that have the knowledge you have. We had students from this master. I know you're well prepared, and this is what we need. It doesn't matter if you are not able to respect the film. We will teach you. What I don't want is to deal with people that they don't know what is the problem of a film, because I know in Europe, and I really speak in these terms, there are people that know very well, and the place is for them. So be strong.
Thank you.
I have a question from Carolina Silva. She's asking, because it was not clear if it is better to manipulate the films with gloves or not, because you were mentioning something about that.
This is the historical point. So there are a lot of the old school is like we don't use the gloves because we don't want to maybe create a damage to film. I can tell you that I worked for 10 years as a film archivist with gloves, and I never broke film. And I did a long work placement in Amsterdam at I, and my teacher was a lady that for me it's really important in my life, and she always used gloves. So, and also it's important to understand that when you work with this material nowadays, sometimes you work with material that are in really bad condition. So you have to think about your colleagues in the 70s. Maybe they were working with nitrate, but they were also working a lot with collection that were in good condition. Today, you work with the film heritage that is 100 years old. So it's another things. And also there is more knowledge about the effects of working with nitrate, of film that has Vinegar Syndrome, the effect on human being. And we have to protect ourselves. This is super important. I always say to my students, protect yourself first. So that's why I also want the gloves.
We have now the students have now here a workshop with professors, to see different kind of projectors and films and boxes and all this stuff. So we thank you very much for your presentation.
Muchas gracias. Buenas tardes.